Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. We are starting with the breathing exercise. Those people who are interested could come here. Okay. Now we start with Anulom Vilom. You know how to do it. Just press here, block this nose. All right? Breathe in. Now block the other nose with these two and breathe out here. All right? Block here, breathe out there. With practice, then you will know exactly. It's a bit confusing. You need to have a tissue paper just in case, you see. Now. Now let's do couple body, all right? Couple body. Breathe in and then make a noise like a bumblebee, all right? This is very good for catarrh, for sinus, those people who've got throat infection, so many things. It's very useful. Now let's do the exercises. Okay? If you could stand up, please. Can you make it a bit short? Short. Hi. Hi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. 1, 2, as if you are sitting down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now do this way now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now try and bring your hand right up to the end. Slowly, gradually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now this is the emotion. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to check and whistle that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What you don't have the sun is some of you. Hasan. Hasan.
Muhammad Wali Muhammad Salawat. I'm sorry, today we are running a bit late. I was late coming in here. I was hit with the traffic. So please, we're running a bit late, yeah? Hope you're all right. Musadik Bhai, Quran's recitation, please.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين. ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا صدق الله العلي العظيم. These two ayah I've presented to you all are from Surah Ahzab. Surah Ahzab is one of the most insightful chapters of the Holy Quran with numerous lessons for us. The overall theme of Surah Ahzab is that is demanding, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is demanding from us total and absolute loyalty. The whole surah is based on the concept of loyalty, but there are sub-levels in this surah which are numerous in reminding us of our responsibilities, and it uses the examples of others to enlighten us for our loyalties, our conduct, our presentation, especially not only as a singular mu'mineen, as an individual, but to the highest level as that of a leader of a society, family, community, or the nation. It also got unique characteristics of the Holy Prophet. And inshallah, next week, when I have been asked to present, I'll go into more details. But for today, in the short time, the total loyalty it demands from us when the Holy Prophet is told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to address the people of Medina. As you know that we had the polytheists over there, the mu'mineens, the kuffars, the atheists, the Jews, and it's telling the mu'mineen that you as a person who has either converted newly to Islam or that you are with the Holy Prophet, your conduct should be of the highest quality. Simply because when the treaties were done between the Holy Prophet and the others, namely the Jews and the Christians, the mu'mineen are told in this surah that your conduct, your loyalty to Islam and the Holy Prophet should be so exemplary that the others who look up to you will say yes. If this is what the mu'mineen of Islam are doing, then perhaps we should do the same. Example that if we as a family member, as a father or a leader of a family, we tell our children that you should do something because that is good, it is akhlaqiyat, it's character building, and we do the opposite, the child is going to look at the father or the mother and say that, well, if my parents are not doing, why should I follow that? So on a higher level, Allah is telling the mu'mineen that you must be loyal to Islam so that you are an example and others should follow you. Down the road, we have Allah addressing the wives of the Holy Prophet in the same surah. He tells the wives, although we know that out of the 9 wives, 2 were a bit dubious, very dubious, that you should, again, with your character, the way you live, the way you portray yourself, should be that it befits your station as a wife of the Holy Prophet, so that those kuffars, those munafiqs, those Christians, those others who follow, not follow Islam, but are following the treaties, should look at you and say, yes, if these are the people who are living the way they should live, then perhaps we should do the same. Inshallah, because of the shortage of time, we will indulge into this surah a bit more. Until next time, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We are welcoming today Saklan Bhai. He hasn't been here for a long, long time, so we welcome him back.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I've been lured here for recitation of Hadith Kisa, and impossible to refuse under any circumstances. Hassan, thank you so much. Yeah, please, please, please. I mean, when it's me, you should never ask here for anything I say. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. An Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari an Fatima az-Zahra'i alayhi salamu bint Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam qala سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له إذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين عليه السلام قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي يا أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأن رائحة أخي وابن أمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه، يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما أكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأمى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وهامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام يقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نام قد أذنت لك فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لي بإن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة فقال بي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يا علي الذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه إلهي آمين ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه إلهي آمين ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته إلهي آمين فقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة اللهم صل على محمد وعلى سورة المباركة الفاتحة
नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, नारे हैदरी, बुलंद सलावत। मचलती है मेरी ख्वाहिश लबों पे ये दुआ बनकर मचलती है मेरी ख्वाहिश لبوں پہ یہ دعا بن کر خدا کے پاس میں پہنچوں، غلام مصطفیٰ بن کر۔ مچلتی ہے میری خواہش لبوں پہ یہ دعا بن کر، خدا کے پاس میں پہنچوں، غلام مصطفیٰ بن کر۔ ارادہ ہو گر نجف کا اور کربلا میں دم نکل جائے، ارادہ ہو گر نجف کا اور کربلا میں دم نکل جائے، میری مٹی نجف پہنچے مگر خاک شفا بن کر، میری مٹی نجف پہنچے مگر خاک شفا بن کر۔ صلوات۔ وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ زہرا ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے۔ حسین جس کے قدم پہ سر کو جھکا رہا ہے وہ فاطمہ ہے، حسین جس کے قدم پہ سر کو، حسین جس کے قدم پہ سر کو جھکا رہا ہے وہ فاطمہ ہے، حسن بھی جس کے ردا کے اندر چھپا رہا ہے وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ زہرا ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے۔ علی کا چہرہ، علی کی آنکھیں، علی کا لہجہ، علی کی باتیں، علی کا چہرہ، علی کی آنکھیں، ہاں علی کا چہرہ، علی کی آنکھیں، علی کا لہجہ، علی کی باتیں، وہ جس کے خاطر خدا علی کو بنا رہا ہے وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ زہرا ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے۔ توحید کی ہے کرن یہ ساری کو، توحید کی ہے کرن یہ پیاری، دکھائی جس نے توحید ساری، توحید کی ہے کرن یہ پیاری، توحید کی ہے کرن یہ پیاری، دکھائی جس نے توحید ساری۔ خدا نمازوں، خدا نمازوں میں جس کی تسبیح، خدا نمازوں میں جس کی تسبیح پڑھا رہا ہے وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ زہرا ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے۔ قرآن میں کہتی ہے ذات واحد، طویل سجدہ نہ کر محمد۔ قرآن میں کہتی ہے ذات واحد، قرآن میں کہتی ہے ذات واحد، طویل سجدہ نہ کر محمد، مگر حبیب، مگر حبیب خدا بھی جس کے لیے کھڑا ہے وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ زہرا ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے۔ صلوات۔ ہے بیٹی صرف یہ مصطفیٰ کی، مگر یہ چاہت رب جہاں کی، ہے بیٹی صرف یہ مصطفیٰ کی، ہے بیٹی صرف یہ مصطفیٰ کی، مگر یہ چاہت رب جہاں کی۔ ردا میں جس کو، ردا میں جس کی، ردا میں جس کی وہ پنجتن کو دکھا رہا ہے وہ فاطمہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ سیدہ ہے، وہ طاہرہ ہے، وہ زہرا ہے، وہ فاطمہ ہے۔ صلوات۔
One announcement before we ask Mwalim Taha to come here. Next week we're having Sufra. So please donate generously to the guest day, please. Thank you.
حبيبي يا خدا خط الأنبياء بعض بلند الصلاة الفاتحة دفي البلاء وخزائن الحوائج.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابهم المنتجبين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وغاصبي حقوقهم من أول ظلمهم إلى يوم القيامة. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في قرآن الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال. صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسولنا الكريم وصدق مولانا أمير المؤمنين صلوات. I seek Allah's protection from shaitan, who is the cursed one, and I start in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the most kind and most merciful. Indeed, all praise is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the master and owner of all the worlds. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has guided us to this right path, and had He not shown us of this true way, we would have been of those who are lost. Our choicest greetings to our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and his pure family and their chosen companions, and may Allah's curses rain on their enemies from the day they started their injustice to the day of Qiyamah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala draws our attention to the verse which I've quoted, which is from the 24th surah, which is Surah Nur, and is the 36th verse, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that in those houses which Allah has exalted, He has permitted for His name to be mentioned therein, and therein Allah's name is exalted and glorified to Him in the morning and in the evenings. When Sultan Bhai Al-Hajj here phoned me and he said to me, will you please come and give us a talk at the seniors, and it is to celebrate the birth of none other than Hazrat Fatima alayha salam. I could not say no to him, and I said yes. And then I got very, very worried, and I still am, because one, we have had Ayyam Fatimiyya, we've had the series of majalis relating to the great lady, and on top of that, to face an audience which is, with the combined knowledge that has been there, and the majalises and lectures and things you have heard far exceed anything that I know or I could dig up. And so I'm so very concerned about it, and I thought, how do I approach such an august audience and present something in glorification to our great Sayyidatun Nisa al-Alameen, Bibi Fatima alayha salam. So I thought that perhaps a different approach I should take is to take bits and pieces and just form a collage which you yourselves then can put together in any shape or form that you want to celebrate and to remember. And hopefully, through small anecdotes, we can take away something about the great lady. And I've quoted this verse of the Holy Quran to start to set the scene about where and what this household of the Holy Prophet is all about. And in looking at it, and I, right in advance, I'll tell you that I'm reliant totally on Sayyid Mir Ahmad Ali's commentary, which I find very useful for simpletons like myself to understand, that when you look, and I will come back to the ayah and discuss it a bit more to see how this fits in, I asked myself the question, because I read the commentary on it, and I said, well, why is it these things arise? Because when one looks at the Holy Quran, the revelation of, in the order of revelation as it is narrated in the books of commentary, that Surah An-Nur is about 103rd, I think, or something like that. Whilst Surah Najm, for example, has been revealed as the 23rd surah. And then you have Surah Ahzab, which we are very familiar with, which is Surah number 90. So I thought, well, let me just put the scene out first and start with looking at Surah Najm, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, by the star which is going to come down, your Holy Prophet doesn't say anything of his own right, and he is not lost. He only says what has been revealed to him. And in the commentary, Ibn Abbas tells us that one night after the Isha prayers, in the Mosque of Medina, the Holy Prophet was sitting there, and he was saying to the companions that tonight a star is going to arise, and it will come down on earth, and it will land on a specific house. Now, I'm sure you all know, but just for my benefit, and so that I don't forget the trend of what I'm saying, that at that time, the first mosque in Medina had been built, and everybody wanted to be near the mosque, not far away from the center, and the houses were built in such a way that they opened up into the mosque, so they were very close. And Ibn Abbas narrates that Abbas, the uncle of the Holy Prophet, was so desirous of this star to land on his house. And the companions who were there were also in the same mode. And people stayed up throughout the night waiting to see the star and where it was going to land. And Ibn Abbas narrates that when the star did come down, it landed on the house of none other than Imam Ali alayhi salam and baby Fatima alayhi salam. So all the companions who were there already must have recognized what the Holy Prophet said and the level or the status of this house. And then when we look at Surah Ahzab, which we are familiar with, and in particular verse number 33 of Surah 33, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. It needs no translation because every Shia has got it inscribed on his heart, and I'm sure that when we go down and Munkar Nakir comes, forget every question, we point to the heart and say, see what is in. We have tattooed it. Not on my hand, which the insects have eaten up. La, la, la. This is on my heart, which no insect, nothing is going to destroy. This is the love we have. But what happens? Salma asks the Holy Prophet, am I included in this? And the answer is no. This is only restricted to the Panjatan. And more importantly, in this Surah Ahzab, when the narration and the revelation comes and Allah tells the believers that the wives of the prophets, the wives of the Prophet are the mothers of the believers, what does the Holy Prophet turn around and say to Bibi? He says, and you, my dear Fatima, you are Sayyidatu Nisa'il Alameen. So everybody by this stage knows the status. So we come back to that verse which I opened with in Surah An-Nur about this house and the exalted house. Now the commentators tell us that the hadiths tell us that the references to the Holy Kaaba and the mosque in Jerusalem, Masjid of Qubba and the mosque in Medina, etc. Our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, he tells us that when this verse was revealed and the Holy Prophet was asked about the house, which is this house? Which is this special house? He said, this is none other than the house of Fatima alayhi salam. In the commentary, Tha'labi, who is a Sunni scholar, he narrates as well about this. And he, quoting from Anas ibn Malik and Buraidah, when the Holy Prophet is asked about this, and he says what I've just said, that this is the house of, he was asked, which is this house? And Abu Bakr the companion of the Holy Prophet, he stands up and he asks the Holy Prophet and says, well, among these houses, is the house of Ali and Fatima included in it? And that is why I asked to go back to those two verses from Surah An-Najm and Surah Ahzab. Here is, we are told in history by the Orientalists, is the companion, the early companion of the Holy Prophet. And yet, having come across Surah Najm, Surah Ahzab, and all these other references, and Surah Dahr as well, and yet he's asking a question like this, and the Holy Prophet turns around and says, yes, the house of Fatima and Ali are included in these houses. As a matter of fact, it is the greater of all the houses. So we can see from this where we are with regard to Lady Fatima alayhi salam. And we know, I mean, we recite it every Friday in Dua Nudba, where the reference to the houses which opened into the mosque. And just to remind ourselves that when the Allah's command comes to close the door, وَسَدَّ الْأَبْوَابُ إِلَّا بَابُهَا, that Holy Prophet tell the people who have got their houses with the doors opening into the mosque in Medina to close the doors. Because not everybody has awareness of the level of the sanctity of the mosques. And we can see in history, just to digress for a few seconds, to remind ourselves that it didn't take very long after Karbala for the Battle of Harra to take place, where the Muslims attack the Medina mosque, defile it, make it najis, and this is the leader of the Muslims and the Muslim army doing it. It is not non-Muslims. So the command comes, and the first person to rush to close his door is none other than our first Imam. And the Holy Prophet turns around and says, Ya Ali, your house and Fatima's house is not part and parcel of this order. So now we have established the level of the house of Baby Fatima. Let's just talk about her for a few minutes and see what she presented in terms of her lifetime. So we start from the time when she was very young. And we hear in the commentary, and we've heard about it all the time, that she is given the title, one of the titles is Abiha, the mother of her father. The word in Arabic is often used in a different context of a mother, but rather as a complete quantity, something which doesn't need anything to be added to it. So you will have, like the Holy Quran is Ummul Kitab. It is the book which encompasses all the other books that there may have been. Everything is enshrined in it. And we have seen it in the Iraq War. People use the word in that context as well. So it's the completeness. But there are two aspects here. The first part is that when the Holy Prophet begins to declare and announce the Islam and embrace and asking people to embrace Islam, we are told about the narration that in the holy Mecca at the Kaaba, he is praying, he is in sajda, and the enemies of Islam come and throw all sorts of dirt and intestines on him. And here is a young girl, the daughter, comes along and removes all this filth and uncleanliness of her dad. And holding his hand, presumably, they come back home. This is what is giving her that title. And in addition, we have to remember that for those people who talked about the Prophet being up there in Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar, that those people who are taunting the Holy Prophet, that you don't have a son and therefore nobody is going to remember you. All those people we don't even remember now. We don't even know where their graves are. And the big leaders, we don't know where their graves are. But through that chain of none other than Bibi Fatima alayha salam, we have the whole chain of imams to the final Imam, Imam al-Hujjah ajjalallahu ta'ala faraja. And this again shows the completeness, and hence the title that is given to her of Abiha. Bibi Fatima, as part and parcel of her life, was devoted to providing knowledge and education to the ladies as well. And I was reading a hadith that this lady kept coming to Bibi Fatima, came and said, I've got a question. And she said, Bismillah, ask a question. And she asked her question and she responded, and she came again and she responded, and she kept coming and asking questions. The lady who was asking the question became embarrassed that she was troubling Bibi so many times and coming and asking all these questions. And it's a wonderful hadith in what Bibi says to her. She says, don't worry about coming and asking me questions. You can come and ask as many questions as possible. And she says to her, imagine this. If somebody is paid, I would say in sterling, say I give you £100 to take this parcel from here to Glasgow. Would you object doing that journey and going all the way to Glasgow? No, you wouldn't, because the reward for you is that £100, which is a lot of money. And she says the reward for us answering and responding is equivalent or more than the pearls which are from the earth all the way to heaven. And the same thing applies to our ulama when we ask them questions. It's wonderful, the way she puts it in context. We then have the situation that with regard to Bibi, sometimes we narrate, or a hadith are not narrated because we find it illogical and it's not scientific. But I find it in hadith book, I narrate it. And we take what we can from the hadith and just take the higher values rather than some of the simplistic aspects. And one of them is a situation where one day Hazrat Salman, he comes to the house of Bibi and finds that Imam Hassan alayhi salam has been placed in a corner and he is crying. Bibi is sitting there grinding corn using the old-fashioned way, because no mixers in those days and grinders. And her hands were all sort of bruised and they were bleeding. And Hazrat Salman asks and says to her, but Bibi, you already have Fizza. Why don't you ask her to do this? Because after all, she has been allocated to you. And Bibi says, but wait a moment. We have turns. Today it is my turn to do the job, and it is not Fizza's turn to do the job, and therefore I must do the work. So Hazrat Salman says, well, okay, Imam Hassan is crying so much, let me hold him so that he can be pacified. And Bibi says, well, he won't, because he wants me. So he says, okay, you hold the baby, I will grind the corn. And she relents and agrees to it. And he grinds the corn. And then he leaves and he goes. And he meets Imam in the mosque. And Imam is saying, "What's the matter, Salman? You look perturbed." And he said, "I'm sorry to say this, but I have just been, and this is what I saw. It's very disturbing." So Imam says, "Okay, khair." And he goes home. And after a while, he comes back. And he's smiling. So Hazrat Salman says, "Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, what's up? You're smiling." He says, "Yes, you told me. I went home. And you know, Salman, when I got home, I found Bibi Fatima has cradled Imam Hassan, and she is fast asleep. And the grinder is moving by itself, grinding the corn. And this is Jibreel coming and doing it." And when people say, "Well, come on, wait a minute." And I say, "Well, okay, let's pause there for a moment before you say that this is all above, understanding. You're quite happy to accept. I say to that person, you are quite, because I do not challenge it. Because for me, this is a special house. This is not an ordinary house. I do not deny for 1 second. And I said to him, are you then challenging that when that moment came and the Holy Prophet was about to leave this world and there is a knock on the door and Bibi answers the door and says to the person, go away, twice, and the Holy Prophet says, Fatima, that is none other than Malakul Maut. It is the respect of your house that he has asked permission. He doesn't ask permission of anyone else. If you are willing to accept that hadith, why are you challenging this? For Jibreel, when we look at our hadith, it's very clear that he has come and he has done as he is commanded to do by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Bibi. And we will come and finish up as to why that is the case. But this is also that lady who is so special, and this house is that special, that our Holy Prophet establishes undoubtedly and without contradiction that whenever he comes into Medina, the first house he greets Bibi Fatima, and when he is leaving Medina, he bids her farewell. And we've heard so many times that when he comes, he respects, he stands up when Bibi Fatima arrives, giving her the respect and establishing for the ummah that this is no ordinary lady. This is a special being. This is a huri from Jannah. And then I came across, sometimes you come to some very nice hadith and it just establishes for us what the level of Bibi is. Sheikh Ni'mat Jazairi, he writes in his book, he says, one day the Sultan of Basra was sitting in his court, and the Shia alim who used to come there regularly to seek and request on behalf of the Shias for help or whatever that was needed. And all the Sunni ulama would be sitting there with him. So on this occasion, he comes and the Sultan turns round to this Shia alim and says, who is afdal? Who is better? Fatima or Aisha? And the Shia alim turns around to the Sultan and says, the answer is so simple. What a question. And the Sultan says, well, so what's the answer then? He said, it's Aisha, of course. the audience of the Sunnah ulama are shocked. The Sultan is shocked as well. I mean, after all, here is a Shia alim, and she is saying that Aisha is better than Fatima, was afdal. And he says, well, how do you come to that conclusion? And he says to him, well, haven't you read that verse in the Holy Quran which says, فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ لَلْقَائِدِينَ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ? That Allah prefers those who go to do jihad. After all, didn't Aisha go out in Jamal for jihad? While Fatima was always sitting in the house, not going anywhere. But what this does tell us, that when it comes to the rules of Islam, Bibi was par excellence. But also that when in jihad, like in Uhud, for which we have a lot of narrations, Bibi and other ladies go out to nurse and care for those who are wounded. Everyone has a role to perform, and one she does not extend or exceed the hudud or the status and the position that she's supposed to be in. Now this, another hadith in the same book I found, and this is where one day our first Imam, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, he turns around to Bibi and says, you know, we've been together 10 years now. And in 10 years, you haven't cooked any food which I have enjoyed. Now, I'll put my hand right up and say, you know those situations where you're sitting at home, the pilau is served, and you say, "Aaj nimak ochu che," and there's no complaints. The salt is brought, you add the salt, you eat your pilau or whatever it is, no problem at all. 20 years down the line, when you recount, every time that dish has been served, the first statement is, "Ochu che?" You know, but that's just a side. But here, when Imam goes away, Bibi goes to the Holy Prophet and said, "Ya Rasulullah, see what your cousin has said." So the Prophet says, "Well, Fatima, why don't you make it better? You know, why don't you make the food a bit better?" She says, "Well, what do you want me to do? There is nothing in the house. We've got corn, we've got water. We may have some salt, but there is no oil. How is Fatima in these destitute conditions, in these difficult situations, supposed to make something better?" This gives us a picture of the house of Bibi and the conditions they were living in. And at that moment, Jibreel comes to the Holy Prophet and says, "Ya Rasulullah, Fatima is right and Ali is right. But the situation is this, that it's not that Ali doesn't like the food that Fatima has made. But Ali is at that level, but every time he picks up a morsel to eat, he remembers those verses of the Quran which talk about Qiyamah and the questioning and in the grave. And when he remembers all these things, he finds it difficult to enjoy his meal." It's different levels. It's a message for us. So in this kind of household, 2 children are being brought up. And the surah which we are familiar with, Surah Dahr, where the food is prepared, the family is ready to sit and eat. There's a knock on the door, and the poor man comes and asks for help. He is helped. The prisoner comes, he is helped. All the three different types of people come and they are helped. But there is one part of this narration that when the Sa'il comes, Imam gives his share, Bibi gives her share. The children themselves, from the upbringing of the house of the Holy Prophet, of the Bibi and Imam, they themselves of their own willingness give to the poor. It is not that the parents just take and give it away. This is the kind of house that we're talking about. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. Right? And we don't do it for any reward, but for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are some of the things that I have wanted to present. And as we go on, what about this situation with the lady and the ummah? We heard, and it's again a great narration, which was recited in Ayyam Fatimiyya. Narrated, it's in Bihar from Ibn Abbas, that he says, one day I saw the Holy Prophet in the mosque, and he performed sajda 5 times. And I turned down to the Holy Prophet and I said, Ya Rasulullah, what kind of sajda is this without ruku? And the Holy Prophet says, Jibreel came down and he said to me that Allah loves Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And the Prophet said, when I heard this, I went into sajda. So then Jibreel said to me, Allah says, He is pleased with Fatima alayha salam. And he said, I went to sajda the second time. Jibreel came and said, Allah loves Hassan alayhi salam. And the Prophet performed the sajda for the third time. And he said, the Jibreel came again and he said, Allah loves Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And he said, I performed the 4th sajda. I paused. I said, well, the 5 panjatan are already there. So the 4 sajdas have done and the Prophet is there. What about the 5th sajda then? And he said, Jibreel came down and announced and said, He loves those who love the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Even at this juncture, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And it is this love for the lovers of Imam Hussein and the Ahlul Bayt that I want to close with. I know if I'm taking too much time. No, I'm not taking too much time. I'm not taking enough time. And it might cause problem for him, but that's okay. The gift that comes to us from Bibi Fatima alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, are wonderful. And the first one is one which we all recognize, and that is the tasbih of the Bibi. 34 times, Allahu Akbar, thank you, I've forgotten. 33 times, Alhamdulillah, and I think 33 times, Subhanallah. And our 6th Imam, Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam, reminds us that he says that there is no time when I have performed the prayers, the wajib salat, before I do anything, as soon as I finish, I do the tasbih. And I remember asking a great alim about this. And he said to me, when I am in difficulties, I do nothing, I do the tasbih of Baby Fatima, because there is nothing like it, which is fantastic news for us. And again, it is for our benefit that it is being presented. The second gift is this: we are all going through life and we all have ups and downs and difficulties. And often we ask ourselves a question, well, what should I do? There are lots of du'as, but this dhikr is fantastic. You don't need wudu. You can perform it at any time, and it's ongoing. And if you have a problem, if you have a desire, if you have a wish, then recite it. Recite it as frequently as possible. It's very simple, very straightforward, one sentence. Ya Mawlati, Ya Fatima al-Zahra, adrikini. Come for my help, come to my help. And insha'Allah, we will get that help. There is, and Sayyid ibn Tawus in his Iqbalul A'amal narrates a very, very short ziyarah related to Bibi, which is highly recommended. And he says that the thawab for reciting this ziyarah is absolutely immeasurable. And it is in dua.org. And if you are stuck and you want a hard copy, Brother Maqbool Jafar will no doubt give you a copy without a problem at all, because he's got the PDF version. Highly recommended. If you can't do it every day, do it at least on a Thursday or on a Friday or on a Wednesday, any day that you want. And the final hadith that I want to present is this. From our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. He says that on the day of judgment, when everything has been decided, Hazrat Fatima alayhi salam will not, she said she will not step into Jannah until each and every muhib of Imam has entered Jannah. And when I read the hadith, it was difficult to explain, to understand, and then you begin to think about it. And he goes on to say, that in that hujum, in that crowd of millions and billions of people, she will be selecting those who are fit to enter Jannah the way a chicken chooses and picks its food from the ground when it is thrown. It is selecting. When all the dirt and dust, the chicken picks up the right grains to eat. That is how Bibi will be picking out the lovers and muhib of Ahlul Bayt out of the crowd of the hujum on the day of Qiyamah. This is the status that she has accorded to us. And what about her as a person? She is none other than, to remind ourselves, because we all know this, and you all know it better than me. She is the focal point for each and everything in Islam. For we have heard today, and we hear it all the time in Hadith Qissa, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is establishing the relationships that we are supposed to look up to and to exalt, what does he say? In terms of when Jibreel asks, who are these Ahlul Bayt? The focal and the first point is none other than the center, Fatima. As the philosophers in Islam and the mystics will tell you, that you are further away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you are away from the center. If you draw a circle, the center, you are trying to get close to it. The circumference is always going to be further away. And you want to come closer and closer and closer to the center to get as close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, Allah is telling us in Hadith Qissa, mutawatir, Fatima وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. It's even in terms of the Holy Prophet himself, who is the leader of all the prophets, his relationship is established through none other than Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. And so it was on that occasion when the moment comes and Bibi Khadija, who has been conversing with Bibi in her womb, is ready to deliver, and the ladies from heaven have come because everybody else has turned their face away from Bibi Khadija. And the light in the house of the Holy Prophet is brightened, and the light in the soul of the Holy Prophet is suffused with this great noor, and the whole world is enshrined and encompassed with this great noor of the birth of none other than the lady, a holy lady, Bibi Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidatu Nisa'il Alameen. Afdalu Salat Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. Ya Allah, we beg you and beseech you, through the blessings of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam and all the Panjatan and all our Imams and Imam al-Hujjah Ajjalallahu ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, to grant maghfirah to all our marhumin, to grant shifa to those who are unwell, to fulfill the wishes of the mu'mineen, to remove debts from us, to remove difficulties from us, to keep our iman safe. And when that moment comes, when we have to leave this earth, we have Ya Ali on our lips. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We got 10 minutes before we break for Wazoo Rek. Got the floor open here if anybody wants to say. But make it please short, yeah?
He says something,
Yeah.
kind of formation which I've given before,
Okay,
just to
please do.
5 minutes.
After Abbas says
Oh, yeah.
Abbas, Mohsin is reminding me again, the desk is open for your donation for the Sufra next week. Next it's open there. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I have mentioned before that we have individually have got a lot of knowledge which we should not take it to our graves, rather than part it over to our people, to our friends, to here, seniors and others. So what we have suggested last time, that we have some people who will like to take your names, those who can contribute. For example, a senior comes to me, I want to know about this religion or this thing, so I don't know to whom I should direct it. But if some people, those who are professional in the line they want, like religion, travel, business, tax matters or something, we will take the name of those who would like to help the seniors or others, so those people can benefit what they would like. For example, if I take the name of Mwalim, Murtaza Bandali, and I know if he agrees, he will share information or doubt of anybody, or then I will direct that person to him and others who are knowledgeable in the subject. For example, if somebody wants to know about estates of his and taxation or how much he has, they can direct to me as an accountant or Taha Dharsi. Then I can direct the people that come to it, but that will be confidential. Obviously, it will be only the person concerned, cannot to everybody, and it will be in a, and only we will not disturb people to ring their homes, but it will be only here when they come to seniors, they will benefit. So various subjects. So what we are going to do, time comes, we will take the names and ask everybody. Everybody has got a chance to contribute in this thing. And if they agree in the subject they would like, then we will take their names, and anybody coming to us and we will direct somebody to ask this person to get more information where to go. So in that way, we will help our seniors, especially our one who every day they are here, and then we can even pass it on further if anything is required. So in future or in time to come, we'll tell the people who are ready at the moment. I've got groups, but there is myself, I declare myself, Azad Dala, he will also take the name of the people and ask everybody. And also Hassan Merali, the pharmacist. And in that way we can help each other to part our knowledge, not to take it away. You know the one question, the richest land in the world, can anybody tell me where it is? With knowledge, the richest land in the world. Kabristan, because everybody has that. Thank you very much.
We're going to take a group photograph there, so please move from that side of the text.
Thank you.